There is one big mistake that humans have been doing for almost 300 years now, and that is the separation of body and mind, or separation of body and psyche. Huge mistake. We were in the Enlightenment period, and I get that. Like, they wanted people to start thinking. They wanted them to not be as manipulated as just like sheep, right? That an elite could abuse, that they could be just like led around doing all sorts of weird things, right? Well, what it also kind of did was that we started separating something that's inherently inseparable, and a lot of really bad issues came from that, and huge problems, and we're still dealing with those today because this is part of our education still. Now, in my life, I found a new way, and today it's going to be about how to not separate your body and your mind. Hello and welcome to the Artful Maestro Podcast. I'm your host, Leonhard, and I'm happy to spend this time with you talking about all the important things for us as classical musicians in the 21st century. Now, this podcast is about personal development. It's about digital media. It's about how to use these new platforms that we have as classical musicians and tackle these new challenges. Because in this new century, everything is changing. The game is changing so fast. It's happening so quick. And this podcast is thought as a resource to help you find your grip and advance your career in the realms of classical music. Now, I have been doing this myself, and lately I've also been coaching and training other classical musicians to help them actually thrive and use all these new discoveries and new methods that we have to their benefit. So we have people who have gathered millions of views. We have people who have gathered tens of thousands of followers. We have very happy people who have completely thrown their life around, doing much more healthy things, being much more happy with their career, being much more advanced financially as well, like having a stability that they otherwise wouldn't have had. If you also want to become part of that, the first step is to go and apply to be part of the Artful Maestro Inner Circle, which is like a free group for classical musicians. But not everybody gets in. Like, you really have to be willing to do the work and to contribute to the group as well. And inside, it's kind of like a mastermind thing where everybody's helping out each other. People are exchanging experiences, and this is how we are going to grow as classical musicians. Not by trying to compete with one another all the time, but actually help every single one find their own internal voice and communicate this voice with their fans, with their audience, and to actually build a sustainable career where they are happy and fulfilled long term. Now, it's all about getting concerts. It's all about how to have a stable income. It's all about how to get better paid for your gigs, but also how to network, how to create engaging programs so people actually want to hire you, how to get in touch with festivals, how to get in touch with concert organizers, and so on. If you're interested, go click the link below and apply to be part of the Artful Maestro Inner Circle. Now, today we are looking at this really weird split that humanity has created between body and mind. And actually, I mostly want to talk about movement today because movement is one of the most important things, how to reintegrate everything around this topic. Now, as I've mentioned, this started around 300 years ago where people said, well, I can have separate thoughts from my body. And this is kind of true, but also it isn't. Have you ever noticed that you have like different kinds of thoughts when your body is really tired? as opposed to when you're super energized. Have you noticed that you have like different kinds of mood swings and they direct your thoughts? Like you would be in a very different place and thinking very different things if you're, let's say, angry or frustrated, or if you're, let's say, lighthearted, engaged, interested in something. And we oftentimes think that, the brain, like the thoughts, this is ourselves. Like this is the personal things that's going on, and that's the rational stuff, and everybody else out there is irrational or doing weird stuff. Well, same thing is with us. So we have like different states that our body is in, and we don't even notice that sometimes, like depending on how well schooled you are, you don't even notice it, but then it kind of hijacks your brain and your thoughts. You surely know this when going to perform on stage, because your body is in a different state of arousal. You have much more going on, you have much more at stake, and then your brain starts working differently, right? And this is not just because of stage fright or because you have some repressed emotions. This is actually because your body is in a different state. So your brain starts working in a different state. And that's when we practice so much that we can also deliver in that state as well. Now, to understand that, it means that our thoughts are actually kind of dependent on our body and what goes on in the body, even if we sometimes don't want to admit that, or we think that we're smarter than that. The other thing is, if we look at our mind, if we say some things over and over again to ourselves, or if we think the same thoughts over and over again, this is going to influence the body. Like if you, let's say, think, oh my God, I'm making so many mistakes, I'm not worthy, I'm making so many mistakes, I'm not worthy, I'm making so many mistakes, like you will actually kind of feel like you have a weight on your shoulders and that you have to carry a lot. And this will make you smaller, and this will create like all other different kinds of processes in your body, which then in turn are also gonna affect your thinking, like your further thinking from there. So there is like an exchange between what you think and how your body reacts, and then again what you think based on that reaction, and so on. So you understand here that wherever you go, your body is going to be with you and your thoughts are going to be with you. And they are basically inseparable. So what's the most important thing to take away from this is to treat them both, on one hand, as equally and that they influence each other, but also that they both need training. Very often, musicians would a lot train their mind, like learning all this stuff, and train specific parts of their body, like the parts that you need to play your instrument, which is mostly hands, but depending on what you do, like sometimes even arms, or sometimes it's just lips. It differentiates from instrument to instrument, but if you don't involve your whole body at a regular level, like if you don't use movement in your life, if you are not walking around, if you are not exercising, what's going to happen is that parts of your body are going to be underdeveloped. They're going to fall asleep. And because they're underdeveloped, they're going to create problems in different parts of your body. There's very good research based on this, because it's not just the muscles that we have, but it's also the fascia, which is like the tissue between the muscles and the skin, which is kind of connected throughout all the body. There was a very, very interesting documentary that I watched around this, and doctors, like medical personnel, up up until maybe 10 years ago, they thought, oh, that's just junk. That's just filling material that we have in the body. Because you need to put some kind of glue in between bones and muscles and skin, right? Because if you don't, everything's going to fall apart. And they thought that this was fascia. So they were just cutting it out and taking it out of the body. Also with surgeries, not paying attention. And apparently when they started doing studies, there's a lot of things happening there, especially on the muscular level. So if you have these fascia not used enough, when they don't get to clean regularly, and you clean them by movement, you can clean them by massage, you can clean them by stretching. There's several different ways how you can clean them, because they are kind of made to self-clean if you use your body in the way that it's intended to. We're going to talk about this a little bit later. If they get to clean, then they kind of have the ability to tense the muscle in the right way. If they're not well cleaned, they're probably going to produce too much tension. And this is how you can get very weird bodily states where you are just you feel like this inside, and then you still have to try and play your instrument, and then it just gets way worse because you start compensating for the parts that are kind of asleep, and then you cannot distribute the tension in your body as it's supposed to, and then you have huge problems. So you've surely heard around physiology, around everything else, that kind of movement is needed to keep your body in balance and to be able to properly play. And obviously this comes from the very, very, very ancient times where we still lived in the jungle, where we were kind of monkeys, jumping around in the trees. And you also probably know that we were not necessarily made to walk on two legs. We started walking upright relatively late in our evolution. So we have the whole torso and back muscles that are actually kind of made for climbing, right? So to climb the trees, to climb the any kind of surface that is in front of you. That is kind of really training the back muscles. And because in today's world, we don't have that, this is kind of a movement that we are missing, and that is creating a lot of issues in the body. I know what I'm speaking of because I've had back problems for a long time. So that's why I've been reading into a little bit, started doing different kind of trainings, going to massages, therapies, and so on. So I was also a person that thought this was not very important until my body taught me that it actually is important, and we want to take care of it if we want to have any kind of stability and longevity in what we do. So our natural state is to move, and it's moving quite a lot. If you imagine, we did a lot of hunting, we did a lot of collecting food, a lot of play also with one another. So there's a lot of movement evolved, and today we're called as this sedentary society where everybody is sitting all the time. People are not really moving. And I've been doing research for myself, just writing down how I feel when I move and how I feel when I don't move. And I even have a smartwatch where I track all my movements, and then I can see how my well-being correlates to the calories burned per day, and also what kind of movement I'm doing. And in my case, for example, I really love walking. When I'm walking, that's the best time for my brain. It kind of gets clarity, it gets the blood flowing, so I have a constant stream of energy coming, and I get a lot of new ideas. I get a lot of clarity, less frustration. I'm kind of just more in balance. And I know that for different people, different kinds of movement work. So there's people that really love to do like high intensity workouts and then they're good for the rest of the day. And then there's people who prefer to do some training like weightlifting and then alternate that with cardio. So whatever works for you best, like we are all different types. It's good to do that, what works best for you. And again, not just will this do wonders for your body, but it will actually liberate your mind. So it's not that you will just lose the issues that you have if you are hurting somewhere maybe, or if you have some tension when you're playing or anything like that, but that you will actually also be much more flexible in your mind. Now, this is something that was extremely interesting for me. I started cycling a lot a few years ago. Now, I work as a church organist, so that means early Sunday morning, I need to go and play. And for years, I used to get up extra early just so I can arrive there an hour earlier than I was supposed to, so that I can practice. And when I can practice, I like it kind of warm up my body, like I warm up my muscles in the hands so that I can actually play the notes that I'm supposed to play. Well, turns out, and that was a huge discovery for me, if I take my bike to work and I'm cycling for an hour, and this goes pretty much uphill, so I really get a good workout in there. I arrive that after an hour, I don't need any time to warm up because my body is already warm. This was crazy. Like it happened one time and then I thought, wow, I have a really, really good day. This is awesome. And then it happened the next time again and the next time. And now I know, like if I do a workout in the morning before I even start playing and my body kind of gets to self-balance it out, I'm already warmed up. Like I'm much more accurate in my playing and I don't have to spend this. I really don't love warm-ups when practicing. I don't know about you, but I really not enjoy them because it's kind of repetitive and I feel like there's no real point to it, right? And now I found that, okay, I can do something for my whole body and my whole body is going to then be thankful and provide me with the balance that I need so that I'm kind of already warmed up for the music that I want to play. I don't know, again, if this works for everyone. It works for me, and I'm super happy that it does. Now, looking at movement in general, what movement means is going from one place to the other. Like it's alternating the state, well, not the state where you're at, but like alternating the location. Movement implies location, going from somewhere to somewhere else. That's why movement is not just important on the level of the body and then also influencing the mind, but actually if you look at the whole complex as body, mind, soul, like the whole being, you want the whole being to be in movement. Why? Because again, it's the same principle. It's kind of needed for the being to self-balance. It's kind of needed for it to just throw out the stuff that is not useful anymore and to go and create something new. So basically, for me, movement, it's, again, not just something with the body, but it's a whole state as humans, as a being, that I want to go somewhere. And there's this saying, like, if you arrive somewhere, like if you're working at your career, or if you are working on a project, or if you're working at anything, and then you arrive at a certain point, and you want to just like keep that level, you say, okay, I'm just going to stay at that level. What's actually happening due to several different mechanisms that I also explained now, you're kind of not staying at the same level, but because of the lack of the movement, you're kind of regressing. It's becoming worse and worse and worse. And you can see this a lot with people, for example, when they are out of education. And in education, there's a lot of movement. So like they have to study, they have to learn, they have to develop, and then they kind of get out of the education. And if they kind of stop developing, if they kind of stop moving towards a certain goal or in a certain direction or whatever it is, you'll see them actually get worse and worse with every year. And at a certain point, they will not be able to even nearly recreate the accomplishments that they had when they were young. And that is really something to think about. Like if you don't move anywhere, you are going to regress. So what that means is not just bodily movement is important and that you exercise and that you just stay engaged, but it's actually that every part of your being is made to be moving. And if you're not moving, you're not doing anyone a favor, least of all to yourself. And everything that you've built before that, it's kind of just going to crash around you. Now, does that mean that you can never have rest? You know, the first time when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, so it means like I always have to hustle and I always have to go somewhere and I always have to strive to, you know, I just want to like hang out a little bit and just not do anything. And that is also natural and part of the whole movement story. Now, how you grow muscles is how you basically grow everything in our body. So we are having this mechanism in ourselves that is kind of, you need a little bit of stress and then you need rest. So the stress on the body can take effect and make the body stronger. So this applies to how you build muscles. This applies how you actually develop your brain. That's why we practice. Like we practice a thing and then we stop practicing and we go to sleep. And while we're sleeping, there's like this myelination happening in our brain where the parts that we use, like the neurons and the connections that we use to perform that certain task, they're getting myelinated so that they get like additional layers. So they kind of can fire faster. And this is how you develop. That's why practice actually works, because you do it over and over and over again. So you're kind of stressing your body into a certain exercise. And then the body is going to respond, okay, let's create an easier way to make this exercise. Same thing, if you go to the gym, you kind of stress your body out with any kind of workout, and then the body's going to go, okay, during nighttime, let us build up these muscles that were kind of strained today so we can perform better in future. And you know you got to take rest days, right? When you take rest days, that's when your body can really, again, rebalance itself and realign everything out of the training so that you can have a good start when you start training again. Again, same thing with the mind. Take a rest day here and then, do something completely else or hang out or just let your mind bumble. I do not recommend hanging out on social media or like doom scrolling, you know. Don't do that because that's like not really good for the brain. Like it doesn't give you the rest that you need. It's more like firing dopamine on all levels. I mean, you can do that if you want, but it's just not going to be as effective as, let's say, I don't know, spending a day with friends or going out into nature or, I don't know, treating yourself to a spa visit or to a massage or whatever it is. Like if you can let your mind go just a little bit, also like if you can let your body go just a little bit, then you can collect the power to continue with the movement on the next day. So it's like this challenge of how much pressure do I put on myself so that it's just the right amount of pressure, that it's not too much, but always stay in movement. And then also take times of rejuvenation, where you kind of fill up the batteries that you have been using. And just a quick note also to rejuvenation. This is a big theme that I am also doing with my clients. Like when we start looking at things and when we start working together, and when I'm coaching somebody. Most people make this mistake, and here's your chance of not doing it. In the world today, there's so many things to do, and then we kind of get into this hustling mindset where we're doing one and the next and the next thing and the next thing, and we kind of forget to rejuvenate. Like we kind of forget to take this rest time. You can say, well, that's not too bad because I'm a high achiever. Well, the truth is you aren't, because if you are not having enough rest, you're also not going to be able to perform at a high level. The equation is like this. This took me so many years to actually understand and learn. Well, first learn and then understand. The quality that you can provide in a high intensity situation is equivalent to the quality that you get when you are rejuvenating. So the better you are rejuvenating, the better you are taking care of filling up these batteries, the more energy you have to spend when you are on stage, when you are in an important meeting. So by taking care of your, let's call them needs, and by really watching out that you have a good foundation of energy, you are making sure that you can perform at a high level. And this is something that I want to leave you with. The better your rejuvenation, the better is going to be your achievement. All needs a balance, and it's up to you to create that balance in your life. There will be an online seminar, like an online course that you can do in the future with Artful Maestro. I'm kind of creating it as we speak right now. So if that is something that you're interested in, do shoot me a message or an email or something, just so I can also let you know once it launches. And inside of that program, you will learn how to actually balance out your life, how to do the stuff that you kind of have to do and need to do without losing time, without losing energy, but actually get back triple the energy, get back triple the productivity, and to have such an amazing life quality that you will ask yourself, how on earth was I able to live before I was doing these things? It is possible. And I'm very happy to show everyone who wants to get deeper into this how to do that. So if you're interested, do shoot me a message or write a comment or write me an email or join the Artful Maestro Inner Circle. Like there we discuss these kind of things more in depth. Having said that, I hope you got a lot out of this episode. Any kind of feedback is appreciated. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next episode.